Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Sterling, and I'm joined by a very, very special guest. You know him as Rowen Dragspear, but he's also a former Air Force captain, a writer, a voice actor, Joe Zieja. Thank you for being on the show, man. How's it going?
Thanks for having me on. It's been awesome getting to watch the tournament today.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
Pretty cool.
So you did a short AMA on Reddit yesterday. How did that go?
That was fun. A bunch of people showed up, asked some questions. They got a little bit deep into like the memeage, where I was like, I think that's a joke that I'm not sure I totally understand yet. Because I haven't played the game too much yet. I've kind of like explored it a little bit. So
Shadowverse is such a meme community, and
it
specifically Rowen.
And it's great. I love it.
It's one of the biggest memes.
Yeah,
it's great.
Smiling Rowen.
So for those of you who don't know, for those in the audience who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did Joe come from?
I grew up on the East Coast in like a small town in New Jersey, and joined the Air Force, did that shtick for 10, 11 years. Got out, started working for the government, and all of a sudden one day I was a voice actor. Like, that's how it feels.
Really?
I started doing corporate work online through different casting websites and all that kind of stuff. I built my studio at home, and then after like, I don't know, 8 to 10 months, I was getting ready to quit my job, like a government job, which is a scary thing to quit, because like you have to really screw up to get fired from a government job.
That's funny. So where did acting and performing start for you? Where did the bug bite you?
So performing, I was a musician when I was in high school and through college. So like I play a variety of instruments, and I like being on stage and performing, but acting, like, there's nothing. I think I was in like one high school play. I have no formal theater training. I have no theater degree or anything like that. And it was really just this origin stories. I was talking to a friend of mine online, and I was like, you know what I've always wanted to try? Voice act. This is like 2013. And he's like, well, my company used to hire actors to do their corporate stuff from this website. You should check it out. So I booked the first thing I auditioned for. And I just had some equipment from being a hobbyist musician at home. I knew how to work a microphone and how to record it properly, edit it properly. And really, it just snowballed.
So were you in Los Angeles at that time? How and when did you decide to move to Los Angeles?
I was in Virginia at the time when I started. I didn't move to Los Angeles until August of 2015. And really what happened was I ended up quitting my job. I had nothing holding me in Virginia. We didn't really want to live there. I'm married. I had one kid at the time. And we were like, well, we're either going to go up and live by my family in New Jersey, or we're going to go to California, where my wife originally grew up. And I had a manager at the time, and she was like, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to do games, I want to do animation, and I want to do anime. She's like, there's only one place. So I ended up here, which is always funny. We joke about it all the time. My wife always wanted to move to California. And I was like, there is no way I'm ever moving to California, ever.
Here you're in Los Angeles, the most expensive city, aside from San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, honestly, I love living in Los Angeles.
It's definitely grown on me.
Yeah, every day you meet someone new that's like, oh, you do this weird thing in some entertainment fashion that no one could ever do.
Yeah, it's really
cool.
It's really cool. It's a great creative place.
Yeah. So what were the first couple of years like moving out here with your family in Los Angeles, trying to get work? I know there's such a stereotype about being a struggling actor, but for you specifically, you mentioned you had a home studio, and having a home studio is so absolutely crucial for being a voice actor, like sending out your submissions, as many as you can. How did your home studio develop over time?
So originally it was just a microphone and an interface in my computer, and I just did it that way. And eventually I learned more about how to make a room better for reflections, and how to make it, more soundproof. Eventually I bought some like larger sound baffles that I would set up and talk into, so it sounds isolated. You don't get the sounds bouncing from the walls. Eventually I bought something called a Studio Bricks, which is a modular, ingenious construction modular sound booth that actually just goes together like Legos. Really cool. It served me well for 4 years, and I literally sold it last week because I had built like a full professional studio in my house, which is like, now I have like an 8x10 booth on the inside with like the double doors and everything. It's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So how did you come by Shadowverse? How did that get on your plate?
Shadowverse was really interesting. I did some work for the studio that records it, and I can't even remember where I started with them. It was the first audition I think they ever sent me.
Really?
Back in, I think it was either late 2015 or or early 2016. I can't remember now. But, you know, or I had no idea what it was. I looked at it. It was all code named. I wouldn't have known what it was anyway. But, look at it. I'm an anime fan, so you look at it like, oh, this is an anime-style game. It could be a JRPG. It could be something else. I had no idea what it was. And, yeah, I auditioned for a couple. I auditioned for Rowen, Urias, and there was a third of the heroes, and I can't remember what it was. But the most bizarre thing about it, and I hope I'm remembering this correctly, is my original audition for Rowen was in a German accent. For whatever reason, they wanted a German accent for Rowen, and Urias was Spanish. I do both of them fairly well. But ultimately, they're like, okay, you booked Rowen, don't do that. just come in and do
different direction.
Let's go a different direction. Yeah, so we did not end up doing the German accented Rowen.
That's funny because it ended up at being probably the most basic American hero
Yeah,
voice.
He's super straight-laced, a little bit of a square.
Yeah. Definitely not a foreign, at least for us, not a foreign guy.
Not at all.
Yeah. So you got cast as Rowen. How did you go about the process of creating Rowen? Because I know a lot of animation and video game voice acting like this, you don't get a lot of information to really go off of. It's not a Shakespeare script.
Nope.
There's not hundreds of years, or at least like a couple years of backlog of lore that you can read into like other games.
Nope. And even so, like there's a stigma that like you need, like you got to go read the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien to like understand what an orc sounds like. You really don't. Like, it's you're part of the creative process as an actor. So I got a chance to go into the studio, and they were like, "Well, we liked what you did in your audition. Let's drop the accent and let's like play around." So really, Rowen is just a version of me that's a little bit more chest out and a little bit more straight-laced. So we fell into it very quickly because it's very close to my natural voice, as many of my characters are. I just kind of like look at a picture of a guy and I'm like,
He probably sounds like this.
He probably doesn't sound like this, so let's not make Rowen like that.
It's
I can imagine just
Yeah.
seeing a picture of Rowen.
The dragon.
That's not him, So it was easy to see like he's this strong dude.
Yeah. Did you ever listen to any of the original Japanese voice acting?
Yes.
From Rowen?
And I can't remember. Somebody asked me this question yesterday. I can't remember if we did it in the process of coming up with Rowen's voice because it was so natural to my timbre. I can't remember, but we do listen to it if we ever need to time something, like because they do it first in Japan, and if it ever needs to fit a time constraint, I'll listen to it and then repeat it in my Rowen.
So one thing that I found that really divides actors as far as process and craft is how much they will want to look into a specific character that they're playing. Specifically, like let's say like you're playing Hamlet or something. Would you go out and watch as much Hamlet as you can, like as many of the films, read as many of the documents, or would you try to stay away from that as much as you could when you're creating a character?
I think it depends on what character I'm creating. Now, I was also the voice for Fox McCloud in Star Fox Zero: The Battle Begins, and so it was important for me to understand what Fox used to be, or like what Fox was in the past. So yeah, I mean, like I had played the game, so I didn't have to do too much research, but I knew what like Mike West had sounded like as Fox. And when I got into the studio, they were like, okay, so we want Fox, but we want Fox with teeth. So it became a little bit of a grittier version. But most of the time with the characters I do, there's no template. There was nobody for me to go research for Rowen or Mr. Full Moon. It was just like it was an organic process that many times you come up with instantaneously in the studio. So having a backlog, I guess, in your head of like what your voice can do and where it can go, it helps you adjust quicker.
Interesting. So when you're going between jobs, what's your life like as far as keeping yourself sharp, keeping yourself prepared? Like, what kind of exercises, what kind of training do you do to grow as a voice actor?
Not a lot, actually. What I do sometimes for fun and to help myself practice, I'll do like funny impression videos. Like I'll do 6-second Looney Tunes or whatever like that. And I'll just work on like, okay, can I make myself sound more like an authentic Bugs Bunny or whatever. Occasionally I'll go to workshops that are run by either casting directors or directors in the LA area and like see what their style is, do a different take on a different character. But most of the time, like my practice comes with the auditions that I get from my agent. My LA agent inundates me with animation and video game copy, so I'm constantly creating characters and I'm constantly taking things in different directions. So
that's cool. So you mentioned Fox McCloud. What are some of your favorite characters that you've played in games or anime?
Man, I got to play Achilles, the Rider of Red in Fate Apocrypha, which was what an experience. I didn't expect it to be that much of like a heavy emotional experience. But it was just this long series, really deep character. He was like this wise guy. I always said like Achilles is just me a little bit drunk. Like he's just got this whatever kind of attitude until he gets into combat. So he's multi-dimensional, a lot of fun to play. And that was my first time I met a lot of the other actors in the show. So like that was a great experience for me because we don't meet each other most of the time. So I was like, well, okay, I don't know a lot of you. Come over to my place and we'll screen it. Like we'll just watch it. Like none of us had seen the show. Yeah,
I've noticed you've done a couple screenings with some of the voice actors like on Twitch. Like
yeah, and we have a great time. And
awesome.
A lot of times like that's the only time we see each other. So I met everybody on the cast. A lot of them are my friends now, and it was a great way to get to know people in a career where you're very often in the booth by yourself and then you're gone.
That's so crazy. I can't imagine the first time meeting your fellow castmates, hearing like, oh, you definitely sound like this guy, or wow, you sound nothing like, and then watching the thing that you've all made together for the first time. Like,
it was great.
Really cool.
It was a great experience.
Nice. So most actors, they're just as nerdy as gamers, if not more. So what are you most nerdy about?
I'm like nerdy about getting nerdy. Like I like to like collect skills, and I like to collect knowledge, and so like I'm always learning different things. Like I impromptu got my pilot's license last year because I was like, I want to learn how to do that. I'm a parkour athlete because I find that very interesting. But like as far as like real nerd stuff, I'm just a gamer. I love stories. I love science fiction and fantasy. I love video games and the stories they tell. And yeah, I would say that's I'm pretty classic nerd.
How did you stumble into writing novels?
So interestingly enough, I started doing writing long before I even thought about being an actor, and I was always thinking to myself, oh yeah, books that's what's going to get me out of the government role, because I knew fairly quickly like this isn't working for me. It's high level stuff. It can be very exciting, but it's just like it just didn't feel right. So writing is going to get me. I'm gonna become a famous author, and that's going to kick me out of government work.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been doing that forever, and I sold my first novel probably a year and a half after I booked my first VO gig. I think I had even quit my job already at that point before I sold my first book.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just always been a thing of mine.
Do you find, is there any desire you have to perform either in television, film, or live on stage? Any desire at all? I know that in Los Angeles there's not much stage work at all, but do you really like voice acting? Is that just something you want to stick with?
So I'm extremely lucky in that I'm fairly swamped all the time. Like I'm working every day in voiceover, and I don't know why I would like on camera is tempting because there's a lot, there's like a sparkle to that's not there with VO. It's like you get your face on a camera and you're super cool. All of a sudden people recognize you on the street.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I want to be able to go to Disneyland without people being like, "Oh, it's a guy from CSI."
Yeah.
Like that's so. And the process is much more time consuming. I can't audition for an on-camera role in my pajamas at home, where I do most of my auditioning for.
Where at the same time you're able to answer as many emails as you need to, do the thing, and then continue on your.
You can't make it the volume game that you can with VO. And, like I have to drive to Manhattan and wait in a waiting room with a bunch of other actors for 4 hours. And that's just, I'm happy with VO. I love VO.
The thing that most people don't really realize about just being a freelancer in general is that every hour matters so much. You really have to think about, because it's a full-time job.
You have to monetize your time.
Probably more than a full-time job. And as an actor, if you're going on a job interview, hopefully maybe 7 times a day, 7 times a week, maybe more than that. If that's like 3 hours slot, that's so much of your day where you're, guess what, not making money.
You're not getting paid for 20 hours a week. That stinks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, no, I'm happy in the booth. I don't think I'll ever venture into on camera.
Cool. So what would you say is the most difficult thing about your job, either professionally, maybe in the craft personally, anything like that?
You mentioned just like as a freelancer in general, the difference that I felt immediately for going from like a very stable, very structured government job where I was working 9 to 5 every single day, and when I got home, I was done. That doesn't exist anymore. So like my hours can be very weird. That drive to like always be hunting the next gig is always there. So that can bring on a lot of anxiety and stress while you're always hunting work, you're never really satisfied. You're just going and going and going. I always say to people, like, you know, as a freelancer, there's no such thing as a vacation, only days in which you don't get paid.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, it's really hard for me to take days off. You have to, like, learn how to disappoint people, because I have clients that come to me every day for stuff, and some days it's hard to be like, I can't
do that.
Yeah.
Haven't had a day off in 2 months.
I'm at the beach. You know, like, it's hard to do that. So that's a difficult part, is maintaining a work-life balance when all of a sudden it's not just what you put in the 9 to 5. Like, you get the same output no matter what you put in on the 9 to 5.
Right.
Here it's like your output determines your input. So
what would you say is the most exciting thing about your job as a freelancer, or your favorite thing?
Is it freelancing or voice acting? Just
voice acting.
So I'm crazy for stories. Like, the idea that you can communicate deep ideas that you and I cannot communicate to each other over a conversation, but you can do it with a story. People are walking out of Endgame feeling a certain something that you can't communicate. Their point of view on life has changed. Something about them has changed walking out of these experiences. And I get to be a part of those experiences every day. I've always had a thing for stories and what they can do to widen our point of view. It teaches us things that everything else can't.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm a huge fan. If you've ever watched 5 minutes of the Shadowverse Open, I'm a huge fan of myth and mythology. In Shadowverse, every character, it seems like, is just tied into some kind of mythology, whether it's Norse or ancient Egyptian mythology. Like, it's so cool for me to, like, just kind of play this game and then figure out, like, how it's all kind of tied together in this, like, massive universe. So that's definitely something that I love about games, storytelling, just mythologies, being able to study histories and dive back into time like that.
We're pretty lucky.
We're pretty lucky, absolutely. So you have a YouTube channel.
I do. I have a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel. The Twitch channel is basically, I play games that I'm in. As a gamer myself, I like to experience games with virgin eyes, I guess you want to say it. And then once you've been in a game, it kind of ruins it. So, like, I just finished streaming Ace Combat 7, and it was like I couldn't have experienced that by myself. But I don't want to not experience it, so, like, I just kind of invite fans in, and, like, we all hang out, we play the game together. They backseat game all over the place. It's fantastic because a lot of times I'm coming in cold.
That's great.
And I get to see the thing I helped create unfold on the Twitch channel. So that's twitch.tv/Joe Zieja, YouTube/Joe Zieja. I have a lot of different funny sketches. I also run a series. I've probably about 15, 16 episodes of, like, how to get into voice acting, because people would ask me all the time, like, how did you go from captain in the Air Force to Fox McCloud? Like, how does that happen?
Where's the bridge?
Yeah, like, there's got to be something in the middle. So I started taking, like, the questions that everybody asked me and making, like, quick 5 to 10 minute videos. So yeah, it's just, other than that, it's just funny stuff.
Nice. Okay, so Joe, my friend, we've reached that point in the show. We're gonna have you read some of Rowen's
I'm ready.
voice lines. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
All right, Joe.
Whenever you're ready.
Someone asked me this yesterday on the chat. They were like, "Did you let it get to you?" So it's funny that the first one is, "Don't let it get to you. There's no one else I'd rather lose to." I don't know who I'm talking about in that. What? Incredible. This one's for my family. I shout that at my family all the time, and it really confuses them. Yeah.
That's great. So they don't understand the reference at all.
No, but
That's
I'll just be like, "This for my family."
By the way, so there's no one else I'd rather lose to. Every time Rowen loses a game, or he concedes or something, or he bows out, that's the line that plays when he loses a game.
So I don't mind losing to anybody, is what you're saying. Okay.
He's a good guy.
Okay.
Okay, so now there's a couple more other voice lines from other characters.
Oh, no, I want to say this one first because it's on dear.
Go for it.
Hear the dragons roar. I like that one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Okay, so now, other cards in the game, but you're going to read them as Rowen. Saying their lines.
Bronzed and buttery. That's from Tartman. Another crusty tart coming right up. Gobby's feeling hungry. Armor, weapons, more. You must repent harder. Harder, I say. From Father Punishment, which is just a fantastic name. All right. Papa loves gold. Shapely, hang on. Shapely and succulent. by the Ultimate Carrot, which is awesome. Crazy amazing. That's me. Wow.
Truly.
Wow.
Truly enlightening.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, so now I think low-key, so Father Punishment. That's a card in the game. It's just I don't know how else to really describe that character, but your reading just al dente.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Great. I'm glad.
So now the last two lines, you also voiced Mr. Full Moon in the
Yes,
game.
which people like. I know on the AMA yesterday, someone was like, "You voice Full Moon? Why are we talking about Rowen?"
Right. No, seriously, people. It was one of the first, I think, like meme cards that people loved.
Oh, great.
And then like after that, like every expansion Cygames released, like every expansion had like a couple meme cards in it. Tartman, Ultimate Carrot, so on and so forth. So could you read Mr. Full Moon?
Oh, absolutely. In this session, we died. Like we just we died. I am vexed to the max. Oh yes, nice and full, Mr. Full Moon. It's very good, yeah.
That's amazing. Joe Zieja, everybody. Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
My
Really
friend.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Loved having you on the show. Make sure you tune in to his YouTube channel. Go watch his Twitch. Slap that like button like your mama taught you right. And I believe you're going to be streaming some playthroughs on Shadowverse.
Oh, yeah. Shadowverse
soon.
is my next game. So I finished Just Cause 4. I finished Ace Combat, and
Nice.
I figured like this is a fun time to kick off Shadowverse. So Shadowverse is next. It's going to be super frustrating for players that are like, don't do that. Why did you draw? No. Come on.
I'm definitely going to be watching the stream just to maybe do some backseat gaming
Oh,
myself.
please. I'll need it.
But
I will need it.
All of the viewers out there, Luis, Momo, you two, just please backseat game the heck.
And you can do it. You can do it
amazing.
purposefully wrong too. A lot of Ace Combat people did that. They were like, "Oh no, pick this plane. You should yeah. Oh yeah."
Oh, they'll troll you.
Great.
Don't
Love
worry
it.
about that.
I'm
Anyway,
ready.
so we're going to go to another short break. We'll be back. We'll have the semifinals and getting ready to crown the April Cup champion.